Well, so we're moving on from Force India to probably the team with, or likely the team with the biggest question marks is McLaren this season, with the new Honda power unit. Obviously, it's been a tough, their testing this year has been about as tough, maybe not quite as tough actually, as Red Bull's last year. Obviously Red Bull, well, all the Renault teams really struggled significantly in testing with the brand new ERS and all that kind of stuff. So Honda's going through their teething right now, but I mean, it's not too bad. They did do 79 laps at Jerez, for a total of 350 kilometers, or more or less. Jensen Button putting in a 127.6, with Fernando doing a 135. I don't think it's fair to compare those times really. Whereas like the Red Bull, the next slowest time was Daniil Kvyat with a 123. So obviously they're off the pace right now. They're still working out mechanical and electronic gremlins and stuff like that. Eric Boulier did seem very optimistic in the last interview that I saw with him. I think it was at the end of day 3 or day 4, and he said they've made huge leaps in the second half of the Jerez test. But obviously, it's a big question mark for them. I mean, what do you guys think about the prospect of them scoring points, and also what do you think of the prospect of them scoring podiums?
Okay, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think they're gonna be steadily on the points. Maybe not in the first races, but towards the European season, I think they should be at least contending for the midfield or somewhere in there. And I think the next Barcelona test is going to be really crucial for them, because if you remember in Abu Dhabi in the season, after the season ended, there was a little bit of testing, and they tried the Honda engine the first time there, and they didn't. I think they got like 1 or 2 laps.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I think you're right.
The power unit just didn't
couldn't
work.
even do an installation lap, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, the test now. Well, they got, I think in the last day, I think they got like 30 or so laps in one day.
Which is more than half they did, or almost half what they did for the entire test.
Yeah, and so they're slowly getting there. So I think the last test is going to be really crucial. And well, the drivers, they're obviously both really talented, so that's going to be a no-brainer. So there's not going to be a challenge there, but you have to think it's going to be all about the car and the development this year for McLaren.
Yeah, exactly. I think having 2 such experienced and well talented drivers, that it's worked wonders for them, because they don't need mileage on the drivers. Alonso, yeah, he's new to the team, but he's such a good driver that no one's expecting him to be any less than beating Button in Melbourne. Everyone expects that of him. So whereas if they had just had a new driver, or even a Hulkenberg, someone who was good but still new, like they would have been struggling, because they wanted to give that guy mileage and things like that. Because they've got such 2 great drivers, they know even if they have barely any mileage in testing, they'll be on it in Melbourne straight away, both of them. So that's a big help for them. And yeah, with the Honda engine, I think it's an interesting one. I think they've gone aggressive, so I think they expect Mercedes level of performance, at the very least. 2014 says Mercedes performance. I don't know about 2015 Mercedes, but so they've got better performance than the other teams had at the start of last year. But I think in terms of like preparedness, in terms of how prepared they are, they're on a similar level to kind of Renault last year, in that they wouldn't have even bothered putting the engine in the back of that car in Abu Dhabi last year if they didn't expect it to complete some laps. Right. They wouldn't have bothered. If they knew they wouldn't even do an installation lap, they just wouldn't have bothered. So they obviously thought they were better prepared than they were, which is exactly what Renault had last year. So it's a weird one. I think once they get it going, they will be really quite competitive.
You can develop, though, this year. You could develop the engine this year. You couldn't last year.
Yeah, I don't think that will help, but I don't think it will make a huge difference, to be honest. Because I think their fundamental engine is already very good. I think they're probably already on Renault level this season, Renault level. But they just need to get it reliable and get all the systems working properly. And because obviously, failures is one thing, but that isn't all of reliability. Obviously, they need the systems talking to each other properly and working to 100%. They don't want to not be fully charging and all that sort of thing. And it just it's not just about whether it works or whether it doesn't work. There's a lot more in between. So, but yeah, I think by the end of the season, hopefully it'll be earlier than that, but I think by the end of the season, they'll be right up there with kind of, with in terms of engines at least, with at least Renault and Ferrari, possibly a bit above that. I don't think they'll be at Mercedes level.
Nope.
Purely, I mean, how could they? They've also got something unique about their engine which they're not letting out on. I don't know if you've seen this. They said that they've developed a few technologies that no one's ever used before. And
I
it won't
haven't
be
heard
anything
that.
major. It won't be anything major, I
Right,
imagine. But
because of
they've got a few
regulations.
things. Yeah, did you hear that YouTube video of the coming to the final corner
Yes,
at Jerez? The
yes, I
downshift?
did hear
Weird
the Honda.
sound.
Yeah, it does sound strange.
So whether that's something to do with it, that could be just literally running rough. That could be because they've just not fine-tuned it well at all.
Right.
So that could actually be a negative rather than a positive. But
Right.
it was strange. It sounded lush as well. It sounded really nice.
It did.
But it was a bit strange. So whether that's something to do with it, I don't know. But and I noticed all the engines sounded louder this year as well. But they were saying that it could be Jerez partly. But I think they all sound crisper and sound louder from what I've heard. But again, that's I guess we'll find out properly in Melbourne really about that.
And getting off the power plant side, hopefully it's a much more drivable car. That's the problem that McLaren has had in recent years is just like bumps really upset the car. It's just not drivable. It's missing that drivability that they've had previously. But this year, I believe, is the first car that is at least being partially designed or led in design by Peter Prodromou, right, from Red Bull.
Okay.
So this might be their strongest year aerodynamically in a lot of seasons.
I agree. Yeah, I'm expecting not amazing things purely because Peter can't have redesigned everything. I mean, take the remember they had the butterfly wishbones on the rear last year.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken the butterfly section off, but they're still the same suspension because the suspension links directly to the gearbox. And Peter's only had about 6 months. He hasn't got time to redesign and remanufacture an entire gearbox.
Right.
So 2016 is when we'll see him having developed the car fully. But having said that, he will have done all of the aerodynamic stuff, just not necessarily all the mechanical stuff, because that's so fundamental. Obviously, it's just difficult to redesign that in such a sort and manufacture it in such a short space of time. But yeah, like I say, I'm expecting this to be one of their strongest seasons, and I assume you've been watching Ted's
Absolutely.
books. Yeah, you
Every
used to.
time.
But I find it really interesting. He actually explained to me why McLaren runs stiff. I never really understood why, because they have for years they've ran really stiff, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
Over the bumps they're always sparking, and it just looks horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained why, and that was because they've got peaky downforce. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it only works in certain conditions, and that part of that is obviously difference in ride height and all that sort of thing, and yaw and all that sort of thing. So that's why they've run so stiff, to try and get as close as possible to the ideal perfect wind tunnel conditions, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, like I say, I think they're going for probably less peak downforce, but much more usable and drivable downforce.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting great things actually from both the engine and the chassis this year from McLaren. Not wins, but a surprising showing, put it that way, considering it's a brand new engine and a brand new designer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, specifically British people, of course, are really pulling for McLaren in sort of the way that they were pulling for Williams, starting in like 2012, 2013. Well, maybe not 2012 because they won that race, but 2013 Williams was just terrible. I think it was Abu Dhabi where they took off the blown diffuser or something. They took off a piece of equipment and the car actually ran better, which is obviously not a good
Coda,
sign.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, it just, and I think, the British public, I mean, and not just British people, but people all around the world were really pulling for what used to be, this legendary team that was at the absolute top. They were at the pinnacle of motorsport and stuff. And I think that's sort of the emotional backing that McLaren has now. They've got two really good drivers, arguably the best driver on the grid right now, if not the fastest, still possibly the best race car driver on the grid, and then they have Jensen, who's a fantastic barometer for performance because they've had him for so many years and stuff like that. He's also really consistent. He is very picky when it comes to the car, though, and I guess that's actually kind of good because Alonso's the exact opposite. If you give Alonso a tractor, he'll find ways to go faster in the tractor. He's not quite as picky. Certainly, he can just make the car do what he wants somehow, just with his Alonso magic. I am as well. I'm really pulling for McLaren. I'm really hoping that they have a much better season than they have previously. And the nice part about having the new power plant actually is expectations are low. So it wouldn't be too difficult for them to exceed expectations. If they start scoring points once we hit the European season, I think people would be pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, I think if they can get the engines to be reliable and run at full power and everything working perfect, I think they'll score points in Melbourne.
Now, haven't they said specifically that they're chasing power first and reliability second? Or is that from something?
They have
said that?
But that's not new to McLaren. McLaren has done that for many years, and McLaren's not won a championship in many years.
Right.
So, I mean, just look at the kind of, I think we didn't really watch F1 too closely at the time, but like the 04-05 car, I think it was like really competitive, but horribly unreliable. So they didn't win a championship.
Yeah, Kimi
same in 2012.
Really
exact
bad
same
luck.
thing. They had a really good car, but just didn't win a championship, and so that's not new to McLaren. They've done it for many years, and it's not working for them. So I don't really know why they're
continuing
trying that again. So yeah, but it is kind of a good approach, but it's also a risky one. Providing they can sort out the reliability, it's a good approach.
Right.
So yeah, but moving on to the livery as well. I want to touch on that with McLaren.
Yeah.
Like when I first saw the livery, I really liked it. It's not amazing. Obviously, it's just silver. It's not but it's not ugly like I thought Force India one was in the South. So it's not amazing, but I thought that's quite nice. I quite like the nose as well. It's quite a cool nose. But then I noticed that the red that runs along the wing mirrors and along the side of the nose was Marussia red, and that just completely ruined the whole thing. It's very, very similar to Marussia red, and I'm just like, Marussia, that red now I see is slow and horrible. And you've put that on your car, and I can't get over it. That has genuinely ruined it for me.
I think that's Johnny Walker red. That's why it's red. I'm not sure.
It? All right, but it's similar to it's obviously not on purpose Marussia red, but it is very similar to the Marussia red.
Yeah.
They're trying to pay an homage to Marussia.
But like you said, hopefully they redesign it and do a proper classic McLaren. I can see what Ron Dennis was saying there. He said why? Well, exactly, that was in the past. Why would we why do we want to go to the past? We want to do something for now. This is a different era sort of thing.
Right.
Which I can see. But and he was saying, I don't want to redesign the livery unless someone's going to pay me to do it. And it's just a bit like I can kind of see that. Like if it, like was it last season they were waiting for a title sponsor, which is why it was quite bland the car, because they were waiting for a title sponsor to basically come in and redesign it around that. But isn't Honda their title sponsor effectively? They surely wouldldn't be Vodafone McLaren Honda. Surely it would just be McLaren Honda. I thought Honda was paying them enough money and obviously giving them a free engine I thought that
to
was
be their title sponsor.
Yeah, so I thought that's why everyone was expecting a McLaren Honda livery. But it's weird how then Dennis has come out and said, we're waiting for a sponsor to pay us to do that, which effectively means to me they're waiting for a title sponsor.
Right.
So it's a bit of a weird one. I don't really like Dennis's point of view on that, but I can see what he's saying though, because the livery is literally pointless, isn't it? It doesn't add speed. Yeah, it makes your car look a bit different, and it obviously means a lot to the sponsors. But it doesn't mean anything to the team.
Right.
So I kind of see what he's saying, but it is just frustrating.
Well, aside from maybe merchandising, that's really like the biggest effect it would have on a team.
Yeah, I guess
the merchandising standpoint,
which is a financial thing.
Right. Yeah. A little bit though, but I mean that's minimal. I mean your fans are your fans. And generally not because of the colors of your car.
Well, exactly. You don't go to an F1 shop and buy the best looking top. You buy the top of the team you support, don't you? It doesn't really matter what it looks like.
Exactly.
You don't go, do you know what? I'm going to support Force India because I prefer the jumper. That just doesn't happen, does it? So. Yeah.
Well, they changed their team kit as well. It's black and
it's
white.
like the most boring. The most boring team outfits ever. Yeah, it's pretty bland.
But would they make special team outfits just for Jerez?
I think they would actually. McLaren are that crazy, like with their spending and stuff like that. I think they would actually. And it's so bland right now. It'd be easy to
a lot
add.
more sense. What would make it a lot more sense is if they're in advanced talks with a title sponsor that's got a strong colour, someone like Vodafone or someone that's got a strong brand, a strong red, or something that's strong.
McDonald's.
So they. Yes, something like that. Some a big brand that wants colours and all that sort of thing. So if they're in advanced talks with a title sponsor that's not announced yet, it would all make sense. So have a livery that just kind of looks alright for now until they get that sorted. And obviously, if they never get it sorted, then you don't want to risk anything. Same with the overall, the team kit. You don't they just do a bog standard basic design until that's coming in. So maybe that's what's going on with Ron Dennis. Maybe he's got that in the pipeline, which is why that would make it all make a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
I have to say the speculation is probably really pointless because we'll be seeing the liver in a couple of days, I think.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty soon. I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
Yeah. I saw that was coming pretty soon.